From self-destruction to financial freedom, Adam Cooper's inspiring journey. Welcome to Sugar Mama's Fireplate, the podcast where we spark your financial independence, fuel your early retirement dreams, and empower you to build long-term, sustainable wealth. I am your host, Canna Campbell, financial planner and a passionate advocate for financial freedom. Whether you're starting out on your journey or refining your financial strategy, this is the podcast where I will inspire you, educate you, and guide you towards a life of choice, security, and abundance. So let's get started. So before we begin, I just need to give you a little bit of content warning. Today's episode covers topics such as substance abuse and addiction, but this is also a safe, non-judgmental space where we can encourage open, healthy conversations about personal growth, transformation, and of course, financial well-being on multiple different levels. So if you or you know someone who is struggling right now, please know that support is available. And as I said, this is a safe, non-judgmental space. And today I'm joined by my friend, Adam Cooper, who's also my trainer, and he's going to share his inspiring story of personal transformation. Adam has battled self-destructive habits, including drug and alcohol abuse, and saw for himself firsthand the financial and emotional toll that this took on his life. Now, since going sober, he has experienced a richer, more fulfilling life, both financially and personally, in particularly spiritually. And he's here to share his story, the true cost of his past lifestyle, and the important defining turning points in his life that led him to make these changes and these changes for good. And how, of course, his personal finances have flourished since embracing a clean, purposeful life. Adam, thank you for coming in, and thank you for having the strength and transparency to share your journey. So I'm incredibly grateful for you. So how are you today?
Yeah, thanks so much, Canna. I really appreciate you inviting me on. But yeah, I'm feeling good. A little bit nervous, but I'm okay.
Don't be nervous. As you know, I'm just a bit of a dag at heart. I love having important, powerful chats. And I feel like there are a lot of people who need to hear your story, maybe for themselves or maybe for someone that they know that's close to them. And, you know, everything you say, I know, because we've had these conversations offline, a lot of people are going to relate to on different levels. So can we just start a little bit about who you are and, you know, what you do, just a little bit of a background to put things into perspective.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, like I said, my name's Adam. I'm 43 years old. Moved to Australia around 7.5 years ago. And, you know, I grew up in the UK, just outside of London. Got a very loving family, supportive family. And yeah, you know, I got a passion for helping people, working in sports. Didn't quite make it as a professional footballer. So that kind of led me into a career of health and fitness. And yeah, like over the last sort of 10 years, really specialized more in like the reform of Pilates sector, and kind of like brought me to this moment where I am in my life now. And, you know, talking about addiction, for me, it's like a massive stigma, especially around men and in addiction. And it's something I kind of want to break past that sort of mold and just bring it to people's attention, to be honest with you.
All right, well, let's do this because I agree. There is a lot of stigma and a lot of assumptions, and we need to sort of clear the air with this topic and I guess normalize these conversations. So can we just go back to your past lifestyle and explain what was going on? Big weekends, blowouts, like what did this look like for you?
Totally. So just like you say, give it some content. It didn't always start off like this. You know, growing up in, you know, I didn't really start drinking till my late sort of teens, like 18, 19. But the signs were always there. I actually got blackout drunk my very first time I drank with a friend, and I thought that was perfectly normal, and I thought it was so much fun, whereas my friend didn't, but I couldn't wait to do it again. You know, so there was definitely a sign there. But, you know, growing up as a teenager in your early 20s, you know, in and around London, it's almost kind of expected. It's like that's the norm. You work your 9 to 5 at the weekend. You go to the pub, you go to the clubs, you get drunk, and you know that was kind of like rinse repeat pretty much throughout my whole sort of 20s. And I've had the best times, don't get me wrong. Like anyone would be lying if they said a drink or two wouldn't enhance a good night out. And it started off with a little bit of weed here and there, and going into your 20s and obviously living so close to a place like Ibiza, massive party scene, right? Going over there, experimenting with drugs and people. And for me, like growing up as a kid, I never quite felt like I fitted in. I just didn't quite seem seen, if that kind of makes sense. Yeah. And alcohol and sort of taking drugs and party gave me that sort of community, and also gave me that confidence to sort of fit in, gave me kind of purpose.
Almost like you felt connected to those people.
100%. And like I said, in the 20s, it is fun. It is really fun. But as you start getting into your late 20s, early 30s, I would say mid 30s, it's kind of like fun with problems. And then when you get into like your late 30s, early 40s now, like myself, that, there is just problems for me anyway.
Mm-hmm. Can you share with us what those problems started to look like?
Oh, I mean, from the outside looking in, I got a successful PT business. I don't have any debt. I got a car. I got nice things. If you were looking at my life from the outside, you'd think, everything was going perfectly normal, and I was absolutely fine. But I just did not like the person it made me become. I always felt a deep burning in my soul that something was not right.
You weren't living like your authentic self?
Didn't my authentic self. I was like a chameleon trying to one friends, they would do this. So I'd behave this way with them. I just tried to fit into so many different circles. I just lost who I was physically, emotionally, spiritually. And that was what truly, truly scared me.
And is that when you felt like sort of things started to spiral out of control?
Yes, it's difficult because, for me, I went down the route of alcohol and drugs. It's escapism. Now, if anyone's listening to this podcast and, they're like, it might not be alcohol and drugs. It might be food. It might be gambling, work, anything that kind of gets... Shopping, definitely shopping. Anything to get you out of oneself. So it's a feeling. So if you want to feel a certain way or
escape from feeling.
Exactly. You're going to use something to kind of get you there. So you can take that away. Like I can take away drugs and alcohol, or you can take away shopping or food, but you're left with oneself. So it's not a problem with the substance or the thing you're using. It's a problem with yourself.
Yeah. What you're using as a band-aid or a mask.
Totally. So, I would really recommend anyone listening to, to take a step back and, take that stuff away. And once that's stripped away, it's like, what are you left with? What is it you're trying to escape, or what is it you're trying to, feel? And like for me, there's a real deep fear from childhood of not being good enough. Like I mentioned earlier, not feeling that I quite fitted in and didn't really have a sort of purpose in life.
Can I ask you how much, and obviously we're talking about money and money and wealth comes on very different levels. It's not just monetary. It's, your richness of your connections around you and internally, and your connections of it, of experience and building memories. But from a monetary point of view, a big night out, partying, alcohol, drugs. How much money would you say that, you would spend on a night out?
Great question. Like I said before, like in my early 20s, maybe not so much. Like we would get like maybe a couple of bags in, and it would be shared between a group of us, right? You're fine. But, like any addiction, it's progressive. So the more you take it, the more you want. And
you need more to hit that high.
Exactly. And, my mentality was work hard, play hard, so I was earning the money. So in my mind, I justified being able to get more. Okay. And again, it's that rinse or repeat. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I moved to Australia. It's one of the most expensive places in the world to buy cocaine. It's crazy. And it's one of the most used countries. There's so many users out there. Like I said, it's almost expected. You go out on a Friday, Saturday night, it's literally everywhere, in my opinion, from what I see. So, you could be spending a couple of $100 up to, I think the most I've spent, I cringe thinking about it now, but, up to $2,000. Easy.
In one night.
In a weekend.
Okay. It's dollar cost average.
2
Thursday,
nights.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, if you're going out Friday, there's been a couple of occasions, going out Friday and, it's ended up on a Sunday, and it's not good. So for me, just having that sense of guilt, shame, I can't believe I've done that again, and then by the time the weekend comes around, you're doing it again. And for me, that was insanity.
And that, I guess that's the thing, that it becomes a habit. It's your go-to of how how you spend money. So think about the big weekend or the big night out. What were the ongoing financial repercussions, such as sick days, missed work, medical bills, Uber Eats?
Yeah, again, another great question. For me, because I'm self-employed, there definitely was a knock-on effect from that. Like the next day, just being that hungover, can't be bothered to cook, can't be, so the Uber Eats in the morning, like literally for like breakfast, lunch and dinner. So that's like an extra, $100 there. And, if I did go hard, that would spill into like Monday morning. So it might be rearranging clients, getting some classes covered. So it's really hard for me to put a number on it, but there definitely was a knock-on effect because I kind of had that flexibility where I could sort of move clients or find cover. But I did try not to do that. Even throughout my usage, I was always trying to keep it professional. But definitely towards the end, it was definitely becoming more harder to manage for sure.
What was your turning point? Like, when did you realize, okay, enough's enough? And I imagine did it creep up on you, or did you just wake up one day and go, okay, I've got a problem, or this isn't how I want to live my life? Like, can you talk us through that? Like
I said, like all throughout my life, I always felt that this was not my true authentic self. But I just found myself doing it anyway. And maybe I'd say for the last sort of 3 to 4 years, I've had times of abstinence. So maybe a couple of months here, I thought I could stop and, I'd celebrate that abstinence by going on a bender. It was crazy, right?
You'd almost like go, look, I don't have a problem because I managed to stop for 3 months or 4 months. I can let my hair down now.
Totally. And I see it a lot of times. I see it all the time. And that was me. That was a classic version of me. I'd stop and, I'd congratulate myself by going on this bender. And I just got to the point where I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. I was using and drinking on emotion. So again, that's a massive red flag for anyone out there listening. If you're happy, sad, angry, frustrated, if you're using a substance or, food like we spoke about before to sort of like numb that feeling, that's a massive red flag to look out for. So using on emotion, and anything I use for an excuse. Sometimes I'd actually pick a fight with a friend or use an example just to sort of...
to create the situation to give yourself permission.
Yeah, exactly. It was literally insanity. And I got to a point where, I was drinking or, smoking a joint, again, like really busy, and I'd reward myself by smoking a joint at the end of the night, thinking it's okay. And it definitely was not okay. And I got to a point, I think there was like a 3-month period where I pretty much drunk or used every single day for 3 months. And I was not quite at my rock bottom, but I saw my rock bottom approaching and I just did not know who I was anymore. And it was then I made a decision to stop. I stopped on the Monday and I was a week into white knuckling it. So white knuckling is a phrase used when you just stop whatever you're doing, like I said, drink, drunk, food, whatever, but you're not actually addressing the reasons to why you're doing that. Okay, so you're just like hardballing it, so to speak.
So it's almost like a surface level detox without the deep, meaningful work that we all need. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then a good friend of mine who I hadn't spoken to for about 1.5 years randomly sends me a podcast. I'm on the couch, look at this podcast, funny enough, and it was a podcast with Russell Brand, and how he got sober through AA and working a suggested 12 steps program of recovery. And I was like, wow, have I spoken? Like, I couldn't believe he just sent this podcast out the blue. So I ended up calling him up, and turns out he was working in Thailand in a rehab center, and he himself is 14 years clean and sober. And he just felt like he needed to send it to me out of the blue. So it was, I don't know if we call it like a God job or a higher power, the universe come into play, but I owe that guy pretty much my life. And, I broke down in tears with him. It was really emotional. And it was the first time I kind of really ever admitted to myself that I probably had a problem.
Was there a huge relief in doing that?
Yeah. It's such a relief. It brings back quite a lot of emotions now, actually, just thinking about it. And, the next day went onto Google and got myself into my first ever meeting. And as soon as I walked into those doors, it felt like the chains had literally just come off. And I just felt this huge sense of relief.
Yeah. Permission to be you. When you decided, to quit and to book that first AA meeting, like, how did you get help and support to knowing what you wanted to do for yourself in an affordable way? Because I feel like some people think they can't afford to do this. They can't. And they use it obviously as an excuse. They use it as a block.
Yeah, no, definitely. So again, it brings it back to like what works for you. This is a program that's worked for me. I mean, there's many 12-step programs recovery out there. I've known people to get sober through rehabs, through different sorts of clinics, counseling, that kind of stuff. So I would urge anyone out there who this, if this is sort of resonating with anyone, do your research. There's so much out there, but for me, this is what worked for me, and it's actually a free program.
That's so good to know.
It's amazing. It's a worldwide program, and it's self-contributing through their own contributions, which denies any support from outside organizations, and it's not affiliated with anything. So, I can't
So it's completely independent.
It's completely independent through the fellows who kind of go into the program, which is just amazing. It's just amazing. So, but like I said, I can't stress, this is what works for me. It may not work for the user, the listener out there. And there is so much good out there. So the first step is to communicate. Yeah. Okay, speak to someone. Speak to someone you trust. Put your, it's okay not to be okay.
And there are so many people out there who have heard it all, seen it all before. They're not judging. They just want to help you.
Honestly, the love and support I have received, not just through the program, but from work colleagues, my clients. I was really scared to tell anyone, and all I received was, love and support, which I'm so, so grateful for. So yeah, but it can be scary. It can be so scary to reach out, and it's a sign of strength. It's a sign of strength. Recovery is a sign of strength. It takes real courage for someone to stand up and say, "Hey, look, this is not working for me. I need help. How can I, because before my friend, I didn't really know anything about recovery. I didn't know anything about detox programs, counseling. I just thought this was the norm. You do go on social media and it's glamorized, and drinking is, we're almost encouraged from an early age. This is our conditioning. We're conditioned to have it. And if you don't then drink moving forward, you're kind of seen as like the odd one out, the weirdo.
Well, I mean, and hopefully this world is shifting where it's, particularly in Australia, you go to a wedding, you drink. You go to an engagement party, you drink. You go to someone's birthday, you drink. You go to a funeral, a wake, you most often drink. You go to a sporting event, you drink. You might go to a concert, you drink. So many of our activities are surrounded by alcohol. And, people sort of assume because you don't drink, it's because you've got a problem. But there are more and more people out there going, sober, curious people, including myself, who are going, actually, I don't need this, or being more selective as to when they choose to maybe have a couple of drinks. Like, hopefully we're changing it. People don't judge each other for not drinking, but we are all able to make our own decisions, and we should all respect each other's and each other's journey. Coming back to your finances, you were saying, for example, one weekend you spent up to $2,000. And, there's a lot of indirect costs as well. Things like getting a taxi, Ubers, the restaurants and the bars, as well as obviously the drugs and alcohol and the sleeping in and the Uber Eats the next day. Since going sober, how has your financial situation changed, and how do you feel about your financial situation?
During my using and stuff, one of my biggest fears were not being financially stable in my future. And it was crazy, because the irony is I'm going out spending all this money because I'm worrying about my financial future, but I just couldn't break the habit. So it's like insanity, right? But now, I'm almost 5 months sober now, and it's really given me the opportunity to focus more on my recovery. So it's kind of given me a little bit more financial freedom to kind of take the foot off the gas a little bit.
Which is what you probably needed desperately deep down.
Definitely, like just from a physical, emotional, mental, like I said, spiritual, everything. I was in complete burnout because I had to work those hours, because I was like, well, I need to do this because, you know, last weekend I'd done that, and it was just no let. It was 24/7. It was 24/7. You know, setting an expectation of myself, and now coming out of that, you know, I'm a lot more calmer. Like, life still happens, right? We still have like the financial strains. You know, we live in a very expensive area. Price of living is going up, but I'm able now to look at that from a more of a calmer, less resilient way, and knowing, and I can now budget actually way more easier, because now I know I'm not going to be spending X amount per weekend. Like, say one weekend it might be 500, the other might be $2,000. You never know. So now I can actually look at what's coming in and actually go, okay, right, this is for that. This is for that. You know, there's no hidden weekends that I'm just going to blow up and waste a load of money. So I'm in a lot more control, which is a really nice place to be in.
And like, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, I imagine when you were in the thick of, you know, big nights out and big weekends, you know, you would discover your cash flow or savings drop after the event. Whereas this time around, you're more proactive in directing, okay, well, I'm going to spend $1,000 on a weekend away, you know, for myself, or going to this particular retreat, or doing this particular program or course. Like, you're back in the driving seat again financially.
100%. Like, you know, I'm in control. It's funny you said about the driving seat, because through active addiction, you're kind of like, I felt like I was either in the fast lane, like chaos, or in the slow lane in despair. Now it's like I'm just cruising in the middle lane. You know, it's really nice. It's like you're in control. You're not going to be crashing into anything. You can, you know, like I say, you can plan. I've got a trip planned going back to the Europe already, which I've already paid for. Normally I would be leaving it up until, you know, a few weeks before and scrambling around my finances, whatever. So that's all paid. I'm going to the south of France with my family. You know, I've been able to go onto yoga retreats, men's retreat, invest in stuff for the house, like my own health, stuff like that, which is really nice to be in, nice position to be in. And
of course, like, incredibly important, health is wealth. You know, there's no point squillions of dollars and, you know, you can't breathe, can't get up a flight of stairs, can't run around. That is true. And, you know, obviously working in the fitness industry, you know, and I used to use this analogy to my clients, and I kind of felt like a bit of a fraud before, because behind closed doors I was doing all this wild stuff. But, you know, it's, you know, if you're optimizing your health, it's just going to have a knock-on effect with your business. Like, if the better you are, the better you sleep, the more effective you are going to be at work, which in turn will make you more productive, you know, and which will have a knock-on, you know, whether, depending on what work you do, you know, more sales, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be more likable. Yeah. So you're not going to have such a short fuse. It's just a win-win in my opinion. Would you say that you're far more motivated as well financially? You know, you've got that sense of clarity again in your life?
Yes. It's funny, I was having this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and we're talking around sort of like ambition and purpose. And as I've started to heal and become a little bit more peaceful, I don't think I have as much ambition. But when I actually had to look at the dictionary meaning of ambition, it's really to succeed in oneself. So it's for personal gain. Whereas purpose is believing in a bigger picture and providing an opportunity that's for other people and not just for oneself. Does that make sense? So I still have goals and I want to succeed, but for me it's about, you know, a bigger picture, not just about myself, you know, because when you are in addiction and stuff, it is all about yourself. You do not care about anyone else. You're just caring about getting the drink or getting that bit of food or whatever it is. Whereas now it's not about me, it's about other people, it's about giving back, it's about love, and, you know, how can I help, how can I be of service of someone else? I mean, you've gone through so much in such a short period of time. Can I ask you a personal question, and by all means say no, for people who are already on their path of sobriety, and like, how do you deal with the fear of slipping up? Great question.
And I say that because if you slip up, it doesn't matter. You can get back on the bandwagon quickly.
Totally.
But I don't say that just. scare you? Or
do you know what? It's an awesome question, and you can achieve anything one day at a time. So I don't know what's going to happen next week. I don't know what's going to happen in a month's time. All I know today is I'm not going to pick up a drink, or I'm not going to pick up a drug. And we can achieve, when you break it down like that, you go, okay, I can achieve this. And over these small days, that's when you build up some sort of time. And it's just like training, right? Like I said earlier in the podcast, like, it's not what you're using, it's a you problem, right? So you got to put the work in, just like you're going to the gym, okay? You're only going to get out of any program, whether it's, working a 12-step, counseling, whatever it may be that works for you. The only way you're going to succeed in that is if you fully commit to it and you're vigorously honest with yourself. That's the only thing. And like, it's like going to the gym. You're only going to get out what you're going to put in. If you're still going to eat crap and, not do all the stuff, you're going to look like crap, right? So it's kind of same with recovery. And, so it's like, for me, what's working for me is, have an amazing sponsor. It's going to regular meetings, just keeping my side of the street clean, and doing the work, working the steps for me. And, it's like a business. It's like you do a fearless inventory on yourself. Like any good business, once a year, you got to do an inventory, right? A stock take, what's working, what's not working. And that's what I've done on myself. So, that holds me accountable. But like I say, all I know for today, I can do that. So, I stand a pretty good chance, I think, for the next 24 hours. But, if it does happen, you just have to pick yourself up and get back into it,
I'm so glad you answered this question, and I'm so incredibly grateful, because everything you've said is exactly the same with money. What you put in is what you get out. You want to have a goal of being financially independent, want to have a goal of being financially free, or even financial harmony in your life. You've got to put the work in. You've got to learn to manage money. You've got to learn to manage your vices, your addictions, your triggers. You've got to learn to be patient. You've got to learn to be kind to yourself. You've got to learn to stay focused and dedicated, and building up that inner confidence within yourself. And, yes, you, just like money, you may make a bad investment. You may go and have a blowout and buy a whole pile of like clothes or handbags or makeup or whatever your thing is. But you can only deal with what you're doing with right now. If you have that, it's okay. You can get back on the bandwagon again, and you know exactly what to do to get back on the bandwagon and help make up for lost time or make up for lost money. And so what you were saying is exactly the same as money. It's the same dedicated commitment and breaking it down into just take it day by day. And the journey of getting out of debt is a slow and painful one, and comes with, lots of uncomfortable conversations within yourself about what triggered you to spend money, or why something happened, or what are you learning, how are you growing. So these things, the conversation of sobriety and addiction and money are very much aligned. And, that's why I think it's so important to have these conversations, to see that we are all in the same boat together. We're all trying to do our best, but to really respect and show that unconditional love and support for each other, so that we can all go on our paths, on our journeys, heading in a happier, healthier, richer direction, both financially, but more so like energetically, spiritually, and mentally. Yeah. Look, Adam, thank you so much for sharing your story, your powerful story, your raw, honest story. And it is incredible to see how your own self-discipline, resilience, and clear vision has transformed your own personal life, both financially and spiritually. And, over a really short period of time, and the new level of quality that you are living every single day. And your journey, for all the listeners, is a reminder of that, financial decisions that we make, big or small, impact our future, just like your daily decisions to stay sober and to focus on, your mission, your vision for life. And, for the listeners right now, if anything we've spoken about this morning has resonated with you, or if you know someone who is struggling, please know that there is so much help available. And as Adam has shared, it's free. It's not going to cost you anything. And seeking support is a sign of strength not weakness. There are professionals and resources who can give you the guidance towards a healthier, more secure future. And you will reap all the wonderful benefits with this with no regrets. So, Adam, thank you so much. For anyone that wants to get some help or possibly reach out to you, where is the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, thanks, Kenna. So probably the best way to reach out to me is on my Instagram. My Instagram handle is Adam Cooper Fitness. Or they can reach out to you, and I'm sure you can point them into the right direction.
Yes. Well, and of course, we will go and link everything in the podcast notes for the listeners.
But yeah, on that note, I am more than willing to, reach out and speak to anyone. And it is all about the community, helping out each other. And there is a solution. There is a solution.
The solution and so much support.
So much.
That's safe support too.
Yes.
All right, well, look, that is it for today's episode of Sugar Mama's Fireplay. I really hope you're feeling inspired, as always, empowered, and ready to take action on your financial journey towards independence, and ready to take your own journey to financial independence. If you've enjoyed this episode, please can you do me a huge favor and share it with someone who could benefit from listening to Adam's story. And of course, don't forget to make sure you are following this show so that you never miss a beat. In the meantime, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep that financial fire burning bright. Until next Monday. Ciao for now.